Well, good afternoon, everybody in Empowered Soul Network. What an amazing day! Wow, all kinds of things happening in our environment, and to stay relaxed and stay positive in my presence right here, right now has been paramount. So it's great to be able to wrap up the day today with a longtime colleague and friend of mine, all the way in from Australia, Julie Jara. I did a tour back in Australia, actually twice, and Julie was so helpful in helping me know the lay of the land and so on. So a great fondness in my heart for this. I'm so happy that you're here today, Julie. Welcome to Empowered Soul Network.
Thank you, Paul. It's so good to catch up after many years.
I
Here we still
know.
are. Yeah,
It's like old
yeah.
Hoboken. It's like you're next door.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yes.
Julie is a reconnective healer, and she'll share what that's all about. She's traveled all over the world and has all and people from all over the world are coming to avail themselves of her service. She's also a spiritual consultant for the Way Shows College, and she'll share some of the ways she's adapted some of those techniques into the last 20 years of her service and so on. So can't wait to dive into this, Julie. So just tell us a little bit more about yourself and reconnective healing and all the things you do.
Sure. Well, I have been doing reconnective healing for the last 20 years. And just to make things really nice and even, I was doing the spiritual consultant program for 20 years before that. So it's been, I mean, you don't plan this. I didn't plan this. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And that's how it's sort of, I think I need to say too, I have no idea where it's heading. There's still a lot more to go. But I thought I might start way back at the beginning.
Sure, yeah. Take us on a journey, yeah, because I know what led you into the world of healing and spiritual consultation.
Well, I'm going to go back till when I was 2.5 years old. So that's when it starts. It's not my memory. So I don't remember this. However, my mother does. And any chance she gets, she tells me this story because I was the worst person in the world. I ran up and down the street. I was 2.5, and I told everyone in the street that mummy was having a baby, and nobody knew. I don't know if my mother even knew. But I got into such big trouble. She had just found she was pregnant. Well, no, I don't know if she knew she was pregnant, but she was pregnant with my sister, who was born 9 months later, kind of thing. And I still get into trouble for that. It's like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, doesn't everyone know already? I just knew. So other things started to happen in my life. It kept on going. There was another time, I might have been 7 or 8, I don't know. The phone rang and I knew my father had been called up for jury duty. Now, I didn't even know what jury duty was, had no clue, but I was like, oh, Dad's on jury duty. And they're going, how do you know that? And so those sort of things, they kept on happening.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was really scared of the dark. Like, I was terrified at nighttime. I've read a little bit about things recently where they're saying people get frozen at night. They're so scared. And I had
Mm-hmm.
that. I was terrified. Like, I knew I had to have the sheet up to here. And I knew if I moved that they'd get me. That's how I felt. I was terrified of the dark. And there was nothing there. There was no reason. So I didn't have any reason for that. Um, I just was really scared. And I was scared of the gifts that I had because they hadn't been explained. No one knew or understood, not like we have now, where we have understanding. Yeah.
So, so I'm curious. I can relate to some of those things, and my kids,
Yeah.
and of course we know a lot of people that are attracted into things because they have that kind of intuitive or psychic or whatever you want to call that experience growing up. Well, what did you find were some of the challenges having that kind of awareness and gifts as you grew, became a teenager, friends, other relationships? How did all that get impacted?
I I blocked it out. So
Hmm.
I found that because I had these things that it was like law of attraction that we now know. I would think something, it would happen. And then I went, oh my God, that is so scary. Like not realizing, hey, what about attracting some positive things into my life? um, I was just terrified. And so I blocked it out. And I blocked out a lot of people. I realized now I was very sensitive and I had to block out a lot of people. So I would find friends who I kind of could click with, that I had that similar energy. We had an understanding with each other, but the other people, I couldn't really communicate very well to them because it was too hard, just too hard. And I didn't want all their thoughts. I didn't want all the feelings I would pick up. And I blocked it for quite a long time. Yeah.
And in blocking that, were there certain feelings or stresses that came out because you could not communicate maybe to a teacher or to somebody you needed to or wanted to communicate to, but yet there was that pull in? Did you find those
Oh,
kinds of things?
yeah, I couldn't talk. I didn't talk. I
Okay.
was not the person I am now. I mean, things changed. I know I was the one who never put their hand up at school. I never made new friends. If I had an issue, no, I would not tell anyone, wouldn't even tell my mother. Like I just wouldn't do it. I was very withdrawn. And then that led to, I didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. I kind of like knew there was more. So I always had that underlying, and I think a lot of people have that where there's something more, but I had no clue what it was or how to find it.
Yeah, and I think from the interviews that I've done and similar conversations, one of the things that happens is you try to block it out, but yeah, you're still picking it up. You're still feeling the things. You're still having that energy. Just not communicating it, and then it piles up, and now there's nervousness. There's all kinds of things that
Yeah,
shape that energy. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
felt like I was searching, but I didn't know what I was searching for. So a lot of it's subconscious. It's not like it's consciously saying, "Oh,
Right.
I'm sensitive, I'm blocking it." I was just like, "Oh my God, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? There's too much going on."
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to a lecture with Wayshowers College. So I went to this talk, and that was 40 years ago. um,
Yeah.
and I, what I heard was a lot of my experiences that were very similar to other people's experiences, and they were quite normal. So it's just that I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have an understanding. It's like that we are all connected, that you can pick up people's thoughts. It's like the future is the same as the past. It's all happening at once. All of that sort of stuff that now I understand a little bit of how that works, of how yes, the phone rings and I already am receiving the information or thinking about the person who's there because they're thinking about me too.
Right.
And
So I'm curious for you, Julie. I know my story and other people's stories that were attracted, and sometimes it could be anything they're attracted to. It could be meditation or whatever. But what was going on inside of you in your thoughts or your mindset before that lecture happened? Were you searching, asking questions the week before, the month before? Was just this, were you reading things? What was happening before you kind of had that epiphany and went there?
I felt like I was lost for many years before that.
Okay.
So I had a pretty good life happen. I had manifested, amazing things in my life, lived in a wonderful place in the beach, everything that I thought I could have. But then I went, well, so what? What do I do now? And for quite a few years, I just felt very lost in all of that. So you can have everything physically that you want. You know, we had two dogs, two push bikes, two motorbikes, two cars, all that, a house in the country, all that stuff. But I still didn't know who I was, what life was about. I didn't understand that I was a soul. And that's what I started to hear about, is that the spiritual part. I mean, I'd already kind of had that all my life, but not really, not in a way that I could get it. So
What was the promotion or the communication that led you to go to the lecture? That was the attracting, I need to go.
do you want to hear the story of it, how I got there? This is full disclosure then.
Yeah.
I was, like I said, I was lost. I was in a pub and there was a bit of newspaper on the floor that I picked up. Now, I don't normally pick up newspapers, especially from a pub floor. And there was a little ad that said, understand your psychic experiences.
Wow.
And I had a boyfriend at the time who was a musician. It was on the next night and he was actually going to record some music halfway to where, it was a long way. It was about 200 kilometers. Like, I lived in the country. He was going halfway to a recording studio to make some music, which I found boring. And I went, oh, well, I'll drop you off and then I'll just go to this thing that happens to be on. And so I went and came back to the studio and I showed them all how to see auras. I was like, wow, like what happened then is it gave me my voice. It gave me something to be excited about, which had been years in the making. And I just had to tell everyone, and I still am.
Yeah. And it kind of connected the dots, didn't it? All of a sudden, these gifts that you had that you grew up with and blocked, now all of a sudden there's this thing that says, "Oh, I don't have to be blocked. Somebody else is doing it. Well, let me go hear about it." Right? And then you're seeing auras, and I know the experience of that. You're seeing this, and you go, "I know how to do this. This is what I used to do." Yeah, but
Yeah.
actually quite an uplifting healing, wasn't it?
It was huge to even just to learn that information. I mean, I sat there very cynically, sat through the whole lecture going, yeah, whatever, not interested, not going to join up with anything. And then they said, you've got help. And that's where I went, well, I know I don't. What if they were true, though? What if what they were saying, what if there was some truth in that? And that's what made me feel I had to pursue it and go a little bit further. But I was very reluctant because, I was very suspicious, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Until I actually learned that, hey, I do have help. And I've actually used that help ever since.
Yeah, and once you experience it, like seeing the aura, that becomes my own truth. And I don't have to trust anybody else because I've done it, right?
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very real.
So with
Yeah.
all the techniques that then you've learned, about working with energy and trusting your guidance, trusting your awareness, your intuitive awareness, all those different awarenesses you have. How did that help you then start to do the healing work that you do? We were talking about that before.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty much a similar thing where there was someone giving a talk on the healing and I went along. It was actually Dr. Eric Pearl, who's the founder of it. He was over in Australia and I saw him doing something and I went, well, that's kind of interesting. I kind of thought I had it all together. But again, there was that spark of interest. So something interested me. I then went and took the training and then I traveled all over the world with this work. But I used everything I'd learned in Wayshowers College to do that. And at the time, I didn't really think a lot of it. One of the things they said to me was, well, they invited me over to America to work there, and I was not sure about doing that. And they said, well, we've got this thing on in London, a presentation. Why don't you just turn up there? And I did. I
Right.
did. No problem. Flew to London from Australia to London. That's 24 hours, you know. Got on some trains, walked a kilometer to some little church in the middle of nowhere, and they were like, wow, you came. And I went, yeah. So what I then did is I trusted it's like getting an insight, checking it, and then trusting it and just going with it. And that's like, I find I'm able to do anything by using that system to do it.
I mean, it's quite the beautiful practical application, isn't it? You're getting your own insight, but then you
Yeah,
trust, you check it, the timing or this or that, whatever it is, with
that's
the
right.
guidance to verify it and then take
Yeah,
action on it. It's quite a
yeah,
1, 2, 3 step there.
yeah. Yeah, because since then, over the last 20 years, I've run presentations, I've done talks, I've traveled like all, you know, many countries and around in Australia a lot. And everything I do is when I've checked it, I've sort of gone, oh, there's a few people in Melbourne. I think I'll go there. I check it out. Well, no, before I check it, I work out how I could make it work for me and for them. I check it and then I go on trust. Now, one thing that really showed me the truth was, remember that time before COVID? I don't want to bring it up, but there was a time a few months before that, the November before it happened, nothing was checking for me to do. I just kept getting, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't travel, don't do this. And I was going a bit crazy thinking, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? And then we went into lockdown. And I just went, oh my God, well, I'm so glad I didn't have any flights, hotels, anything booked. It just showed me the truth of how this can work. Mm.
So, so first of all, can you describe the uniqueness of reconnective healing? I mean, I've interviewed healers from all over
Oh,
the world, and I know there's such uniqueness about what reconnective
yeah,
healing does and the responses and the unique values and principles of it.
sure, sure. Well, there's many.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about one. I
yeah,
mean, if people wanted to know more, I do talks on that,
yeah.
you know, and so on. Um, so first of all, what is healing? Healing basically is a change in your state of consciousness. If you come in and you've got a sore, say, hand, we're not going to treat that hand. We're going to, and we're not even with reconnective healing. I don't even need to know why you're coming. And it's not specific to the hand, it's all levels of mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Usually the physical is the last thing that shows up. So there's other things going on. Just say you've got a sore hand because you hit a punching bag too hard, or you got into a fight and hit someone. Well, why did you? And who knows that? There's sort of that story. Reconnective healing is sort of the opposite to energy healing. So if I was doing energy healing, I might send some energy to the person, to their hand. They would probably feel good, feel a lot of relief, and so on. With reconnective healing, it's the opposite. We receive. So when I work with someone, I receive from spirit, God, love, whatever you like to think of it as, I receive. And by me receiving, say the person is, getting the hands right. Say this is the person, and I'm here receiving, and they start to feel that and vibrate up to a higher level. So they start to change their state of consciousness to a higher level. And when you do that, things you don't want have to fall away. The other sort of part to it, the bonus, is that I also get a healing. So anytime I have a client, no matter what's going on, afterwards I go, oh, I feel fantastic now. I feel good because I've had a healing too. So it's not like it's going through me. I'm not a catalyst. So I'm not a channel for it. I am a catalyst. And so I think that's one thing that for me, and it just keeps on showing me that, yeah, this is different. And the healings that people have can be quite big healings that I've seen over and over. So, yeah. Your sound's off,
Yeah,
Paul.
I know in sharing with
Oh.
you, over the years, there are some, outright miraculous feelings and things that can happen with all that. I just happened to see a picture of this, Joy. It's kind of like you go into this beautiful flowered garden and you're standing there being in that garden, and here's an invitation and somebody else comes and joins you in the garden, and suddenly everybody's feeling the beauty and energy of that garden, as opposed to before they walked through the threshold, they were in the rain or the clouds or whatever it was, thinking there's nothing else to do. Right. I mean, it's just I just had that picture kind of
Pretty
describe
spot.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty spot on. Yeah, it's like I'm inviting you into this, and it's not me. It's
Yeah.
something that, I got involved in. I was attracted to. There it is. And everyone who does that, level of training can do this. And it's like, if you'd like this, I can help you to see what I've got to lift to that higher level. And it is like a meditation. It is. In the sessions, the time goes into a different way. It's a 30-minute healing session that goes like that. And the person on the table, most often, not always, because it's always different for each person, they most often go, wow, that was sort of quick. It's like, yeah, no, it actually was 30 minutes. We were somewhere else.
So the techniques of the college, and for people that don't know, the Waitrose College is an institute that was founded in the early 60s and provides spiritual leadership training, and helping people with techniques to maintain their energy and connect with guidance and so on. So with all the techniques that you've learned there, again, you referred to it, how did those techniques help you with the reconnective healing energy in the process, and your personal, business, social energies that you deal with and all of that?
It's helped me, probably the business side more than anything, in how to communicate with people, how to kind of sense what's going on and what's the right thing to do at the right time. It there's no technique in reconnective healing, so there's none of that in it, but it's just been enabled me to tune into what's the right thing and what to do, what not to do. It's like, yeah, with Wayshower College. So I am a consultant also with Wayshower College, where I show people how to do this, how to interpret the sensitivity that they have. And I think that's what I'm able to do, is to interpret. It's like the example I used before is, there's a couple of people in Melbourne. I might go down there and put on a presentation. It's like how to interpret that sensitivity to say, that's a thing I can do, or yeah, no, that's not the right timing for that. Do that, leave that for another. And that's just happened, actually. I was trying to organize something in Melbourne again, and it was like, this is just not flowing. It's just not right. And I checked it. I got, yeah, no, just drop it for now, not forever, and it'll come up later. So being able to have things in flow, I think that's the thing, is when you're really connected. And that's sort of what happened more than anything with reconnective healing. There's a thing where before that, I kind of subconsciously thought that the help I had was outside of me. You know, I really wasn't mature enough to take responsibility that it was actually me. That for me was a big step. And I've only just recently regrouped that and worked out, yeah, I thought, even though I call it my inner guidance, I really thought it was out there. When reconnective healing came in, I felt everything from within me, and I developed a connection 24/7 that I went, oh my God, it's in a flow. It's in a
Yeah.
flow. Before it wasn't such a flow. It was sort of all right, I'll check it. I'll spend some time. I have to meditate a little bit, not a lot. As you know, we don't do a lot of that. But it put me back into that, oh yeah, I'm in a flow with it, to trust that I'm doing the right thing at the right time, and taking a responsibility for that, for what I know I need to be doing.
It's kind of like a reverse reconnective healing. The guidance energy was here, vibrating and being and receiving and inviting you into that energy. And there's the connectiveness.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful analogy to that, because I'm finding that even in these interviews, even with other professionals, people that are service providers in the whole body, mind, spirit, empowered soul, will, soul network, if you will, that there's always room for greater or more elevated or enhanced excellence in rising into that connection and keeping the connection, right,
Yeah.
Julie? Rather than going to work that day or having trouble with the family relationships and you dive, it's maintaining it at that level, right?
Yeah. And there's always another level.
Yes.
It's like what I said, healing is a change in a state of consciousness. So you lift up to another level. There is always another level coming, and another one and another one. It's like it is a continual. Back 20 years ago, when I found reconnective healing, I'd gotten into a plateau, I think, where I thought, I knew it all. I had it together. I knew that I was the soul, all this stuff. I knew it, but I was actually about to go to another level. And I know that that's continual. And so when I meet people, no matter what level they're at, there is always the next level for them. And the next, it's like a shift, a change, a healing is not the end. It's just the start of the next thing that's coming in.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, as we wrap up here, Julie, I mean, I could talk. I always say this to people.
Yeah.
I could talk for hours about all this, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we'll do some more. We'll do some more. But I always ask a two-part question to most people. And the first part of that question is, if you were to give advice or suggestion to the Julia of 40 years ago or 45 years ago, what would you say to that Julia of all those years ago?
Gosh, I would say, let me think, really trust myself. Trust those insights that I have. Don't go thinking, oh, it's never going to happen. You know, um, I wanted years ago, I had a beautiful farmhouse in a wonderful place, and I wanted to open a healing center there. But I really had no clue what a healing center would look like. I didn't know what healing was. That was 40 years ago. I didn't know how to do that. But now I am a healing center wherever I go. It's not a physical location because I work by distance as well and so on. But so I would say to myself, don't get discouraged. Trust what I know inside that I have come to do. No matter what's going on the outside, there's always stuff
Right.
happening. Yeah.
Beautiful. Second part to the two-parter here. What would the Julie of 40 years ago say about the Julie that she's observing of today?
What would the Julie say of today? Okay, my first insight is, yeah, well, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it. You didn't know it, though. As in, Julie didn't know it. Really.
She sees the results in you of the trust that you built.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. Julie, how can people reach out to you and connect with you?
Probably the easiest is just my website, which is my name, juliejara.com. I've got a list of what I do there, Reconnective Healing, the spiritual consultations I offer at the moment, and presentations. I happen to have one in 2 weeks. It was already set up, a Zoom for anyone who wants to know more about reconnective healing, but
Oh,
I do those regularly. So live in person in different locations and via Zoom. And it's always, I try and put on the first page of my website so you can look on that first page and sort of have everything. So it's juliejara.com. That's probably the best way. If you
okay.
want to see like pictures of my dog and where I am and stuff, Facebook, I post stuff on there. When I do
Yeah.
healings for animals, which I love doing, I put it on there. But yeah, my website's a good one.
All right. Make sure when we wrap up that you go into the comments underneath the video and actually type those in,
I
and I'll
will.
tag you
Yeah,
and so on. And stick around for
sure.
just a minute. We'll kind of do our takeaways after we get the recording done and all that. And there you go. The Powered Soul Network, Julie Jara calling in from Australia. I think she's actually in our future right at the moment. Yeah, she's in
I
our
am.
yeah, so connect with her if you want to know what's going to go on tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Thank
all the other
you.
things. I highly recommend connecting with Julie.
Thank
Amazing,
you so much.
empowered soul. Julie, thank you so much for being here. And again, stick around.
Thank you.